All right. You started here. My mind is a center divine operation. We're looking at the concept of the field and electromagnetism that attracts reality. What is this field of force? A field is a matrix or medium which connects two or more points in space, usually via force like gravity or electromagnetism. The force is usually represented by ripples in the field or waves. The electromagnetic field to use, but one example is simply an electric field and magnetic field which intersect, sending out waves of energy at the speed of light. An electric and magnetic field forms around an electric charge, which is most simply a surplus of deficit of electrons. Both electrical and magnetic fields have two polarities, negative and positive, and both will cause any other charged object to be attracted or repelled. The field is considered that area of space where this charge and its effects can be detected. The field is considered that area of space where this charge and its effects can be detected. We're going to get started.
To teach us, help us understand that we're a part of the whole scheme of things. The law of vibration decrees everything moves, nothing rests. I'm sitting here in the studio and I look and I see cameras all around me and on push carts and on tripods in here. I see plants. I see all kinds of plants over by my window. The plants are extremely healthy. We've got beautiful music playing all the time. It's a very creative environment. I see over in the other end of the studio, away from the library and the desk, and I see chairs, and there's a coffee table and a sofa, end tables. Everything's connected. Everything in this room is connected because each frequency is hooked up to the one above and the one below. Hold on a minute. I'm going to pull something up here.
As Bob pulls that up, this field is connected with energy, a plenum of energy. Michael Faraday introduced the
Put the
concept of the
slide up,
field in
Scott.
relation to electricity and magnetism. And let's watch.
You see all those lines? All those lines represent levels of vibration. We're operating right now, we're communicating on a level of vibration. You're on the same frequency as me. Therefore, we can communicate. We can communicate in pictures, in voice. And if you're really tuned in, you can pick up the other person's energy. Now pull this up screen, full screen, Scott. Look here. Every frequency is connected to the one above and the one below. There's no line of demarcation where one stops and another starts. They're all hooked together like the colors of a rainbow. With your imagination for a moment, imagine a rainbow. And the colors are all coming together. You can't see where one stops and the other starts because they're all running together. They resonate with one another. Well, everything in this room is connected. Thanks, Scott. Put that down. Everything in this room is connected. You and I are connected. This whole universe operates by law. Now, when we say my mind is a center, it's a center of divine operation. So look here again. You build the idea of whatever you want. And you plant that in your heart. That turns in then to a desire. Now, I want you to think. Your mind is a center of divine operation. There's as much power on this side as there is on this side. There's as much above as there is below. My mind's a center. You think of the whole universe. That's such a big idea. But you know something? Your mind's a center too, because you're dealing with infinite. So any point is center. Now stay with me on this. When you move into that frequency, as you get emotionally involved, you're in that frequency. We were doing a call the other day, and I was talking to a man, and we were trying to think of how do you get into this? And I asked him, I said, are you married? Do you have a woman that you're in love with? And he said, yeah. And I said, do you have a person you're in love with? He said, yes. I said, do you remember when you first met? And you just, boom, you were in love with this person. I said, when you were driving the car, her head was like a hologram out on the hood of the car. Everywhere you went, she was there. You were in love with her. Do you know what that means? When you're in love with a person, you're in harmony on an intellectual level. This is your intellectual mind. This is your emotional mind, and you're in love on an emotional level, and you're in love on a physical level. You're in love. You're in harmony. You are in sync with the other person. And there's a strong attractive force. When you fall in love with an idea, I fell in love with the idea of teaching this many years ago. I was living in London, England, and I was earning a lot of money. I was living the big life. And I'm telling you, I just did anything I wanted. I go down to Playboy, playing roulette, just throwing the money around. I didn't even care if I lost, and I usually won. I remember going into Charlie Chester's casino in Soho, and I broke the bank there one night. I was afraid to leave. I had all the money. I got out, and I got home safe. And one day, I asked myself, I said, what's it all about? And it was sort of a nothing feeling. And then I thought, how did I change so dramatically? It was over a very few years. I went from being flat broke and couldn't get anything. I couldn't find a couple of dollars for gas for my car, to being where I was. And I thought, how did I change so dramatically? I couldn't answer that question. I didn't know why I had changed so dramatically. Well, I was in an office cleaning business. I had business in 7 cities and 3 countries. I didn't know why. I couldn't answer it. I'd been raised to believe if you're going to be earning a lot of money, you're going to be really smart. I knew I wasn't that smart. I knew I wasn't very smart, but I was earning a lot of money. I was also raised to believe if you're going to get a good job, you got to have a good education. I only went to high school for 2 months, and they asked me to leave. I didn't just leave. You get out of here. And I didn't have a good education, and I owned the whole company. And I thought most of what I've been taught is not true. And then I thought, how did that happen? How the hell did I change so dramatically? And I thought, somebody has to know. And that's when I really started to study. Now, I was reading Think and Grow Rich up to that point. I'd read that book every day. And I still do. Because I made a commitment, so I stuck to it. I learned that from Napoleon Hill. And I started to study seriously. I got some phenomenal teachers, some great teachers. Val Vanderwell was a great teacher of mine. He really was. God bless me, he's gone. He was such a great teacher. And I thought of what, and I kept studying. And one day, I became aware of how I changed. I was sitting with Val Vanderwell when I became aware of it, of exactly what happened, how I changed. And I made up my mind then I was going to spend the rest of my life teaching this information because it had such a dramatic impact on my life. You know? I don't know what you're doing, and I don't know how well you're doing it. But I'll tell you what I do know. I know without any doubt in my mind, your mind is a center of everything. And whatever you focus on, you're attracting. If you're worried, you're going to attract it. Tells you that in the Bible. The great sufferer Job, he says, "Lo, the thing I fear has come to visit upon me."
Here we're talking about this attractive force, this field of consciousness, and it's alive with memory. This field of consciousness is alive with memory. What physicists since Heisenberg have found is that energy in the 0-point field keeps acting. The 0-point field keeps acting on the particle so that it never comes to rest, but always keeps moving on a spring. This field is alive with energy. And as you think you are the attractive force, sending a ripple through the wave, and you, by attractive force, you attract in kind what you're thinking about. The problem is, majority of the people really don't think. And when they do, they're thinking about what they don't want. But by an attractive force, they keep attracting what they are. It's in perfect relationship to themselves. You see, we don't get what we want, we get what we are. Whatever frequency you keep resonating on, that's what you're attracting via force. The 0-point field keeps acting on the particle so that it never comes to rest, but always keeps moving on the spring. Against the objections of his contemporaries who believed in empty space, Aristotle was one of the first to argue that space was in fact a plenum, a background substructure filled with things, filled with memory, filled with information. Nobody questions why you can plant a seed, and then in the same dirt and in the same atmosphere, you can plant a watermelon seed, drop a watermelon, and in the same empty space, drop a carrot, and in the same empty space, drop an apple tree. And nobody questions the fact that each seed draws to each one of them its own kind from the same dirt, from the same atmosphere. Why? Aristotle is one of the first to argue that space was in fact a plenum, a background structure filled with things. Then, in the middle of the 19th century, scientist Michael Faraday introduced the concept of a field in relation to electricity and magnetism, believing that the most important aspect of energy was not the source, but the space around it. The space around it. And the influence of one on the other through some force. In his view, atoms weren't hard billiard balls, but the most concentrated center of a force that would extend out into space. A field is a matrix or a medium which connects two or more points in space, usually via force, like gravity and electromagnetism. The force is usually represented by ripples in the field or waves. Not the source, but the most impressive part was the field. The source, the seed that has a pattern plan, you plant the same seed in the same dirt, in the same place, right next to another seed. One sprouts up to be the apple tree, the other one is sprout up to be the orange tree, the other is sprout up to be the watermelon, and the other one the carrot in the same space. What was the most important thing? Not the source, although it's very important because it demonstrated what it's going to become. But it was the empty space that was filled with infinite possibilities. But according to what you plant, you can have. According to what you plant, you can have an apple tree, a carrot, a watermelon, and draw upon this empty space. Everything lives in the field. And you and I live in the field. And whatever you're thinking about, you can attract from this empty, local but non-local space. Isn't that amazing? One man will create a business, the other one will sell peanuts or lay in the street. One man will create a fortune, the other one creates misery. All empty space, filled with energy. Each and every one of us is a center of divine operation. And then Bob talked about the falling in love. Why did it work so well? When you're in love, you've got a hologram present all the time about that person, about that thing. And that's all you're thinking about, planting. And here, via force, this field and you interact. The source and the field and the source are interacting. Quantum entanglement, quantifying each other, becoming one. Empty space bursting with activity. Max Planck. He understood that empty space was bursting with activity. In the quantum world, quantum field, the quantum fields are not meditated by forces, but by an exchange of energy, which is constantly distributed in a dynamic pattern. The constant exchange is an intrinsic property of particles, so that even the real particles are nothing more than a little knot of energy, which briefly emerges and disappears back into the underlying field. You got an idea and you let it go, it just goes right back into the field. Somebody passes away, and that individual that passed away was the one holding the dream, the one that was creating the dream. You'll find that everything that existed around him, that surrounded him at the time, begins to dissipate. Why? Because the energy that was holding it together is gone. Do you understand how much power you have? The question is, what do you want? What do you really want? We're at our time, giving you guys value every Tuesday. We're in the holidays. What is it that you truly want? Are you going to decide who you're becoming? Are you going to simply keep allowing the pre-existing ideas to keep unfolding reality in the same sequence of events? It's a decision that you and I have to make every day. But by habit, we literally become worlds apart by habit. I do these classes every day, not just to do them, but because by habit we'll become worlds apart. I help people. I have people work with me, different countries. They're working on themselves because by habit they're going to become worlds apart of where they were and other people. The field is present with energy. What presence do you desire? Better time. Thank you guys. Happy holidays. And everybody have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Wonderful day.
Wonderful. Wonderful day.
Wonderful, wonderful, sir.